Okay, so we're asking dumb SEO questions. Each week we answer the questions asked on the SEO Questions community on Google+. With us tonight we have Alistair Lattimore, Senior SEO Manager for the What If Group here in Australia. We have Girish Kapoor. Girish is proud to call himself an SEO. He hails from Chandigarh in India. Also from India, another search engine optimization specialist is Hardeel Singh. And Kartik Bedai is from Punjab in India. He's a rock SEO and web developer. And Kiran Varma is a blogger and Fiverr contributor from Andhra Pradesh in India. Boy, gee, we've got a lot of people from the continent tonight. Micah Fisher-Kirshner is from the USA. He's the Senior SEO Manager from Zazzle.com. Proud purveyors of 32 million products and counting. Tim Capper. I'm reading from Tim's autobiography here. It says that he's the world's greatest lover, best SEO ever known, and a conversion rate optimization specialist without equal in the world. I'm not sure. You did say some more, Tim, but I can't quite read the rest of your writing. Anyway, we have some questions tonight. The first one is from Spiros Gianotis, and he says a question titled, "Which one is the better in the term of SEO, a subdirectory or a subdomain?" Spiros says, "I handle a hotel chain with 25 individual websites. We want to put them all under our brand name, main domain. Should we make subdirectories within the domain, or make each hotel a subdomain and then redirect the old sites?"
I'd go a subfolder.
You don't think they'd be better off with individual sites per hotel?
Well, they've got individual sites. He's talking about migrating individual websites, so 25 individual domains to either 25 subdomains or 25 subfolders. In that scenario, I would opt for subfolders.
Okay. Anybody else?
I'm with Alistair as well on that subfolder.
Okay.
Yeah. Unless it's, I think there's cases to be made for specific situations, like say a blog or a forum or something. But for just kind of different hotels, I'd go with subfolder for that. I don't think it's too I don't want to say unique, but thematically different. I think they're all kind of fairly similar. That the subfolder would be more appropriate, just from a standpoint of collecting what people might expect, and then as well as the link value across them. It's going to be fairly similar that you want to keep them together.
Okay. Look, I'd see in the chat that I've mispronounced Kartik Betty's name, and I've probably done it again. How should I pronounce your name, Kartik? You have to unmute yourself. No? Okay. All right. Let's call it an answer for Spiros. I hope you're happy with that, mate. And we have now a question from Diana Smith. Does CSS design affect the website's effectiveness in terms of SEO? Actually, there's more to this question, I think. Diana goes on to say, if I can access the code and make changes, etc., on a Weebly platform website, how is it less valuable SEO-wise than, say, a site built by a top web designer, aside from the obvious? I just meant the ability of my site to become just as high in rankings as code made from scratch, using code than a pre-built template that I alter and max out with the appropriate SEO additions. Is there a difference? I need the answer for a client and for myself, as it's been a theory of mine, and so I've been testing different platforms and conducting experiments for small businesses to manage their own site SEO and to handle advertisements. I'd love your perspective, but remember the core question. What, if anything, is different or would prevent my Weebly built SEO-powered website from being as high in ranking as a similar site, an SEO built by a designer starting from scratch? Thanks. Everybody's familiar with Weebly, are they?
Yep. It's a great publishing platform now. It's come a long way in the last few years. I think the short answer to this is it's going to make virtually no difference. Google's tolerance for good quality HTML all the way down to very poor quality HTML is very good. And you'll see atrocious HTML in terms of the quality and compliance with the W3C standards ranking all the time, just as often as you'll see meticulously hand-coded templates that are W3C valid ranking all the time. Assuming that your Weebly site can get crawled and everything, okay, and I'm sure that will be the case, the quality of the HTML in the broader sense of the word isn't going to be a big concern for you. You'll have all of these other things that you need to concern yourself with about promoting your content. That's not whether or not it's W3C compliant, for instance. Assuming it's going to have H1 tags for headings and paragraphs everywhere, etc. You know, it's not going to make a lot of difference.
I'm not familiar with the Weebly platform, but and Alistair, maybe you can correct me on this. Is there any kind of CMS limitations to be aware of with Weebly versus your own kind of custom-built one? Because that's usually kind of like if it's your own custom-built versus like or service provider, then you're having you've got the usual kind of ups and downs for something like that. But I'm not familiar with Weebly.
Well, my father-in-law's site, for instance, is built in Weebly. It's just a simple site. He's a musician. It's nothing fancy, and it works fine. It produces, separate URLs for all of the different pages of content he's got on his site. It links to all of the content like you would expect it to. It's indexed properly in Google. He can customize titles, headings. He can change the template to, just like you could in WordPress, and switch the template to one of heaps of other templates. You can have custom ones. Yeah, I don't see a lot of problem with it. It just seems to work.
Okay. Cool.
Did that start out as a Flash site, as a site basically made with Swift files? Or am I thinking of somebody else?
Weebly?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. I can't remember whether or not that's was Weebly or one of the other ones.
Okay.
Not sure.
All right. Well, Diana, I hope you're happy with that. Next, we have a question from Imtiaz Ahmed Tanik. Do Google+, Facebook, and Twitter really help in rankings? Good evening, Rob Mars.
No, they don't help in rankings. But this is the kind of catch well, not really a catch-22. If you see a page that has 30 plus ones, 25 likes, 200 tweets, that has generally built up because people are it's got a good following, it's producing good content, people like it, and they're sharing it socially, which ultimately over time has a knock-on effect. More people find the blog, find the content, they enjoy it, they share it, and it grows. So in that effect, you've got a popular site. It's obviously well written. And you know, it tends to rank pretty well or brilliantly. And it looks, you know, people tend to equate, oh, it's got a lot of social shares and it's ranking very well, and this is the case. Well, no, that's not the case. If you went and bought 100 Facebook likes, tweets, plus ones onto a page that has no, you know, no following, okay-ish content or crap content, very, very weak, you know, just a very weak site all in all, those likes that you, or those social shares that you've purchased and put on there will not do a jot of difference to it. So you need to look and understand why a page has got a lot of social shares and why it's ranking. The two actually don't meet, but that is, you know, you need to understand a good quality site is going to attract it, but it's not going to rank it.
Cool. Tim, anybody else?
So the one thing that's always an exception to this whenever we have a question that comes up is with Google+. The point, however, with that exception is that it's only for when it is a personalized search. So those are the connections to people who are logged into Google and are connected to people through Google+, and then that will impact kind of some of your results in that situation. But usually when we're talking about overall, and we're talking outside of personalized search, and in that case, Tim's answer is spot on. But yeah, the exception, one kind of exception is going to be with Google+, like with personalized search.
Yep. Anybody else? All right. Let's call that an answer for Imtiaz. And next we have a question from Hina Shah. Can anyone help me in knowing where and how to track blog circulation? I think what she is referring to are comments on her blog. Anyway, I'll read the question. Maybe it'll become clearer. My blog, I don't know where it is circulating and how. The blog is about branding, and I get comments from people talking shopping and etc. I have no idea how it reached these people. For example, and I don't even understand how I ended up right here. However, I believe this put up was once good. I do not realise who you are, but however, definitely you are going to be a well-known blogger in the event that you are not already. Cheers. That statement there was a comment that she'd received as a comment on her blog, probably from the cut and paste that spammers use. Anyway, she goes on to say, above is some unknown comment I received and many more strange comments coming in. Although I have moderation enabled, can anyone help me in knowing where and how to track blog circulation, as such random comments maybe are like spam? I don't know how to control it. Can such a thing cause Google to penalize me? All help would be appreciated.
So if you're using something like WordPress, oftentimes there's an automatic setup to go and ping a set amount of services that are out there to let other sites know that your new post has been updated. Those services can be monitored in this case by a lot of spammers, and so you're going to be getting, and that's part of the areas of where you're getting comment spam. What you need to look into if the moderation is not helping enough is other kind of plugins. And if you're on WordPress, once again, something like Akismet, I can never pronounce that one, is a tool to help just auto kind of delete it for the most part. And that will kind of make that a lot better. And in terms of penalization, it can, there are different ways of how that, in theory, could be penalizing you. A great kind of fun example is something like what happened for one page on the BBC, where the unmoderation kind of got out of control for them, and they created like a 10 megabyte page that was just filled with a lot of spam, and they actually got a manual penalty for something like that. But yeah, I mean, if you want to think about it as letting kind of your site break down, essentially, if you're letting this spam comes through as a bad user experience, as a bad implication in authority about your site. It means you're not maintaining your site. You're letting things kind of fall apart, and the more you do that, that implicates kind of the authority in a negative way about your brand, and that's kind of some of the things that Google wants to try to figure out. So yeah, you want to make sure you are monitoring those things and keeping an eye on that. That means kind of installing various plugins to make sure you're not allowing a lot of the blog spam to come through.
Cool. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think the blog commenting works on that stuff, because if you want to check the reach of the blog circumstances, if a visitor visit a blog, and if he drops a comment, it means that a visitor like to check the blog, and whatever it may be, maybe it's a shopping site or any other site, the comment itself helps that the visitor is reaching the site. And I think he must be mostly depending upon the Facebook and other social networking. So most of them like to share their stuff in there. So if the comment reaches to the page owner, maybe that will be helping in the site reach. So that will help the track you the blog circumstances. So that's what I would like to say.
Okay. Look, I'm not sure if I understood that, Kieran. Okay. Well, look. Anybody else?
One thing that you could do with this is, so there's two things I can think of immediately that are really simple. Obviously, your analytics, if you've got Google Analytics or something installed, will tell you where traffic's coming from that's coming to your site. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, it'll tell you referrals and direct search engines and what sorts of keywords, what landing pages are people landing on within your site. The thing that won't tell you, though, is of the people that are leaving comments, where they're coming from. But what you could do to help fix that is set a goal in Google Analytics that gets fired when someone leaves a comment on your blog. The reason you do that is then all of the reports within Google Analytics from a traffic source standpoint, they will all show you what traffic sources not only send you traffic but send you people that leave comments, which is kind of important and answers your ultimate question of when people find my site and they leave a comment, where are they coming from? So that's a very simple way to do that.
Cool. Okay, Hina Shah, I hope you're happy with that. I have a question now from Muthulak Shimi T. Suggestions on how to get 10% increased visits for every month. By the way, guys, I left this one in because although we've answered questions like this before, I was a little bit remiss in letting it slip in. But I think what we'll do on the community in the future is direct questions like this to previously answered questions, but from time to time I'll slip them in for freshness. Anyway, Mithula Akshimi asks, hi to all, I want to increase my client site visits by 10% for every month. Oh, this is why I left it in, because of what he was doing, that's right. He said, we have a small team and we are doing directory postings and bookmarkings, but we still can't get an increase in visits of 10%. Can anyone suggest how to get these increased visits for every month? And I guess it's because you're going the wrong way about things, Mithil Lakshmi, but I'm sure these guys will tell you.
Okay, as described.
Go ahead, Kartik.
Okay, as described in the question, we are using bookmarking and directory submissions, but I don't think these really helps to increase traffic these days. They must have a blog on their website to create a very interesting content to help users and gain them and allow them to comment on their website. And also they should have a subscription pop-up on their website. When someone opens their website, they should see a subscription pop-up to enter their email address and receive monthly newsletters on it. So it will help them increase their 10%, maybe more than 10% traffic on their website. I think that way.
Cool, mate. Excellent. Anybody else?
I mean, obviously, okay, so doing directory postings, bookmarking is mentioned, not going to be helpful, wrong path. And you're looking at something that will quite vary depending on the industry you're in. You know, depending on what you're doing, SEO may not even be of value. It's a bit vague because there's a whole slew of various online marketing, and kind of the way as well this is vaguely noted is that hey, if you just need 10 more visits, you can spend that money in things like in PPC, and you'll get it, but it doesn't actually mean it's going to be good quality traffic. And kind of depending on the industry you're in, where you focus first is going to make a huge difference. So it's a little difficult to say, but kind of get familiar with the online marketing world. There's a lot of great articles and books out there, and feel free to come back and let us know kind of the industry you're in, and with a little bit more specific questions would be more than helpful for us to know, and we can give you more detailed answers from there.
Cool. Anybody else? All right, Mathala Chimi, that's our answer. Stop doing the directory postings and bookmarking and think of a new plan. Here's a question from, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Kartik Bedai. And Kartik asks, what is reserve SEO exactly? It seems to be the opposite to SEO. One of my clients has asked me to do reserve SEO on their website. They want to drop the ranking of their website to the second page from the first. And also they want to remove something from Google's auto-suggestion, i.e. when you type something in search and Google suggests for a particular term. I wonder how to remove anything from Google Auto-Suggest, and what techniques could be used to drop rankings down for their keyword for their website. Kartik is actually with us tonight. He said it seems odd. He said yes, but what is the answer? And Dave Elliott, I noticed on the community, said it looks like it could be it might be somebody else's site. Are you sure, Kartik, that it is they are the owner of the site?
Well, I think the first thing you would want to do is have a look at the type of content you've got on your site. Ultimately, Google ranks a website based on the content that's on the site, and also the links, for instance, that are coming into your website. So I think the first and easiest thing to do probably would be to de-optimize some of the content on the site. Things like heading tags, for instance, the content and heading. So like title tags, heading tags, their brand name and the copy that they use throughout their site. If you were to remove those references out of the site, or some of them, for instance, maybe not all of them, but remove some of those out of the site, it's likely it'll have an impact on the rankings for the site. If that doesn't work and that's still not sufficient, the next thing that you could try to do, though I'm not sure how successful this would be to actually start removing some links pointing to the site as well. That's a strange thing, because I mean ultimately that's going to be a permanent reduction in the rankings for their website until those links were to be added back. But certainly if you were to remove some of the higher quality links, or some of the lower quality links by volume, for instance, that are pointing to the page or pages that rank for their brand name, over time their rankings will begin to slide, and their website won't rank for their brand name.
When this question was first asked, I thought, why would anybody ask that? But then the other thing I thought of was that perhaps this company sells a number of products, but they appear for a product that they're not proud of. They'd rather hide it a little bit, because really the other thing they could do is just de-index the site, surely.
Yeah, I mean, but it's a little weird for page 1 to page 2.
Yeah, removing it would be obvious entirely.
Yeah,
it would be no index.
Yeah, something like that is usually, it's just like that's the wrong thing to be showing on the front page. They want something else. Think of it like site links. Sometimes you just don't want, Google choosing a specific page, because it's like, well, that's just silly and not informative from a branding standpoint. So that may be kind of part of the reason.
Could it be to make room for their affiliates or something for a product?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, if you have pages on the site that, yeah, I can see that. Affiliates own some pages and they make some money off of it. You don't want to be highlighting their pages as a top branded page that somebody can get to.
The other part of the question was about auto-suggest.
Yes.
So this is a tricky one, because the phrases that show up inside auto-suggest are based on queries that happen. So Google's basically monitoring people that are searching for your brand and all of the phrase variations they're using, and algorithmically they determine by query volume and a whole raft of complex algorithms which phrase variations to show within auto-suggest. So the troublesome thing for you is that unless the auto-suggest phrase meets some of the very limited guidelines that Google will forcibly remove them. For instance, if it was racism or hate speech or things of that nature, as a auto-suggest feature. They've actually got a policy that says that they'll remove those sorts of things forcibly. If it's not something like that, and it's simply something that you don't want to show up because it doesn't represent your business very well, for instance, it could be business name plus scam, which is a common one that a lot of businesses face. You're completely out of luck. Google won't remove those for you. The only way forward for you to fix that is effectively to replace those auto-suggests with better auto-suggests. That's a tough thing to do because you need to force people effectively to go to Google and search for alternate phrases in sufficient volume that it actually pushes out, say, brand scam as a auto-suggest feature. Completely doable, but simply not simple. You'd need to put together a bunch of clever tactics to do that. For instance, let's say your business has got a quite a substantial email list, as an example. You might use your email list and put the call to action in your email list as a Google search for your brand name. So instead of linking from your email directly to your website, you might link them to a brand query in Google with an expectation that there will be sufficient query volume off the back of your email to trigger the auto-suggest features to update over time. And you might cycle through various phrases through your ongoing email marketing campaigns to try and push various phrases out of the auto-suggest, for instance. But you get my point, I suppose. That's just an idea, but there's a bunch of others you could do. But think about things like that.
One of the things to note, however, and I think Dave Elliott noted this as well, is that technically any manipulation, or let's not even use manipulation, any optimization even of autocomplete is very much a sensitive area in that it's in theory a violation of Google's guidelines. So unlike kind of what you could do for a search result and optimize for that, Google kind of takes a generally hard line of trying to influence that is usually outside the realm of what is acceptable for autocomplete. So that's not that. So that's just something to keep in mind, really.
Okay, Kartik, your vision seems to have a split personality right now, but are you happy with that? With those answers, can we move on? Yeah, okay. Excellent. And Silwan Fay asks a question which I'm sure Tim Capper will enjoy researching. He said, I feel like I've been penalised for even trying, and it's frustrating. What can I do to change this situation? She says, I feel really frustrated, almost to the point of just giving up with the SEO altogether. I'm sorry if this is awkward, but my question needs my specifics. And it's faywildcosplay.com /nude-cosplay-e-shop. I wanted my e-shop to rank for the term nude cosplay, so I optimized it a little bit. After Google re-indexed, my e-shop page, linked above, dropped off the face of Google, and every attempt to try and reverse the situation has not turned any results. Meanwhile, Google is just not getting it with my website. Instead of ranking specific product pages that are somewhat optimized, it's favoring random WordPress tags that I didn't even realize I had. For example, for the search my quote nude cosplay, instead of pulling up my optimized product page, which was that domain that we spoke of before, photo pack, which you can see on the SEO Questions community on Google+. Said it's ranking a random WordPress tag as #1 and not showing my product. What can I do to change this situation? I feel like I've been penalised for even trying, and it's frustrating. At this point, I just wanted to go back to the way things were, because right now things are such a mess that Google is actually hurting my traffic by sending people to unintended pages. Things I've tried: submitting a sitemap to Webmaster Tools, restructuring the website so that the product pages are no longer individual and are now child pages of the main store, going through and deleting keywords here and there, and checking in Google Webmaster Tools for manual spam actions. I have none. Thanks, and sorry if this is long. But half as sorry as me, Sylvan. Anyway, guys, do you have some answers? How's your research going there, Tim? I don't dare look at a new cosplay site.
I don't even know what the hell it is, mate. Right. Right, I'm looking at this site. From a user point of view, I mean, when I first, I had no idea what this was.
Sure. Likely story.
Sorry?
Likely story.
Yeah, so I had no idea where the site was, and when I've opened the page, the first thing above the line, is basically "We love Bitcoin, Veritel, FlexPay." Yeah, okay, I completely understand why you want that in. You want a little bit of credibility in there, but can you just move those to the footer? Because for me, I look at that, I just don't understand it. Okay, I know you've got the update thing in there. That's fine. I'm assuming that's going to come down. And then you have a little bit of an introduction to the page. Now, you kind of straight away go into the purchase thing. I'm selling this via digital download with Bitcoin, blah, 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 and if paying by... I would want to see a little bit more of, a description to this page about, welcome to the page. This is what we have available here for you. Give a bit of a story behind it. Who is cosplay anyway? Do you know what I mean? Just give a bit of an introduction, a story. And then you can go on to, perhaps even create a button or something else about, payment section. Then you've got obviously your photo packs. You've got the link, so you've got the image. I would probably give a small description beneath the image and where the link is to that page. Just to give a bit of introduction about, what someone's going to find if they click onto that before they click on. Are these elves? What the hell? Yeah, so I think you just need to, if you're looking at as an e-shop, this is a product that you're selling, look at some other e-shops, look at their landing sites, their landing pages, and look how they create a compelling introduction, and each particular product clicking through to each particular product itself. I really think you need to style this better for someone landing onto it. Most definitely.
Okay, it's very quiet here. Are you guys all investigating this site?
I'm scared.
see David Roseanne has just joined us. David is an SEO copywriter with 10 years experience in SEO copywriting and 30 years experience in writing. Is that right, David? Have I got that right? You're muted, David. No, it's still no noise. That's it.
One other thing I would suggest as well, just in general, is that it's got a massive header on it. Like the amount of content that's above the fold on my screen is nearly zero. I would look to drastically reduce the height of the header section of the site, like a third, for instance, of the height that's there now, so that the primary content comes up the page. This is kind of following on from Tim's comment earlier about, you know, all of the credit, debit, Bitcoin stuff going on, and you know, an average page, because the site is so image heavy, there's not a lot of content either. So I would be, where possible, including alt text and things like that on your images to describe what the image is of, for instance, so that Google can understand, okay, it's an image-heavy site, but that's okay. Here's a text description of the images for this particular post, so that they've got something to understand about what the page is about as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Another thing for me, a big thing for me is your contact us page. You've got nothing on there except an email form. You know, if I was going to be buying anything, especially with Bitcoin, you know, I would certainly want to be able to have a phone number, see an email address, see a company address. You know, I would want something a bit more. If I was going to spend money, I would definitely want some kind of reassurance on this site.
Cool. Well, there's, oh yes, just one moment, David. There's that for the moment, and I know I should have created you a profile, so I will do that during the next question. But in the meantime, that's the run list. All right. Well, as much as I'm reluctant to leave the new cosplay site, I think we'll have to call that an answer for Sylvan. And
one more thing before you go. The site's really slow.
Yeah.
Really slow
Go
for me
ahead.
to. It's horribly slow. Like, it's taking 15 seconds for me to load a page, and that's not including all the images that it's downloading. So I would see if you can find a better web host or something as well, so that speeds up, because that's really slow.
Yeah, I mean, another thing that's come to me is I mean, I had no idea what the hell cosplay was, so I had to just search it. Okay, so basically it's costume stuff. Right, now there are some serious amounts of images, and of course when you search cosplay, you know, in the search you get, you know, images. I would, like Alice said, really sort out your alt text on your images, and I would, you know, describe them really well. So, for example, on that previous page, you know, the images that you do display without actually, you know, obviously people having to go in and purchase, you know, you can tag them up or alt text. I suppose try and describe the scene like I'm looking at the one, I don't know, it's like an elf ears in a pool or something. So, you know, I'm assuming there's some kind of thing for this, but always end it off with, you know, -cosplay, which will really help you start appearing in image search, which could be, you know, quite a good way of just getting some traffic via image searches, you know, people having a little browse. Yeah, this is a new one on me, but yeah. I must be getting old.
You must be, Tim. By the way, Lucas Regala has asked if you work with affiliate programs. You might just check your Google Plus there. Okay, David Razan can be found at writingforseo.org. And Rob Mars has just joined us. Rob is an AdWords aficionado from the Netherlands. He can be found at marketbiz with 2zs.nl. Okay, we're up to question 8 on our run list. It's from Kiran Varma, who's with us tonight. Kiran asks, how does ranking work? How does Alexa ranking work for a website? And with it, I guess, comes the implied question, is Alexa worth worrying about?
No, it's not. So in terms of how it works, Alexa have browser plugins installed across, you know, a large number of computers across the internet. They measure the popularity of the traffic across the internet, and that's how the Alexa score ultimately gets computed. Does it have any bearing on anything? No. Does Google care about it? No. Will it make you money? Not that I'm aware of.
Well, it does have a value if you're flipping a domain, of course. That's what the boys do is get a high Alexa ranking for it, a high PR, and add value to the domain name.
I've seen it still quoted here or there in the blogger world, so that's an area of which people have some preference for it, but it's not an SEO concern.
I think was it Mahalo or something? They had to every member of staff had to have the Alexa toolbar installed. I think it was. Well, if it wasn't Mahalo, it was another one of those you know, word for hire tools.
That's the Jason Halasz, whatever his name is, thing, right? That he ended up having the big spat fight with Matt Cutsover. Is that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was them.
Yeah, but why are the people trying to buy the Alexa ranking in the web mostly? So may I know the answer for it?
Something about Alexa ranking, Kieran. You want us to say something about Alexa ranking? Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. That's what I'm asking.
Okay. Well, I think as Alistair explained, it's just a notional number. It's calculated by the stats fed by the Alexa toolbar, and you know, one way to get your Alexa ranking to improve is to install the Alexa toolbar while you're working on your website, and that will affect the Alexa number of your site. And if you've got a friend and they visit your site regularly with the Alexa toolbar, that will also work. It's not really a number that is valued.
Yeah, but actually I have seen some of the websites that they are selling the Alexa ranking. So what they will do with their Alexa ranking? Is that Alexa will be sending some of the other traffic, or anything else will be profited from the Alexa ranking?
No, I think that was also said by somebody, but oh no, actually it might have been me. Alexa ranking is valued by some people when they buy domains, because it gives some notion of value to the site. But for SEO, I don't think anybody would say that they valued it. All right, let's move on from this one with your permission, Karen. And here's one from a good friend of the SEO Questions community, Arseny Bolotsko. When to tell Google Webmaster Tools that a domain has moved? I have moved a site to a different domain name, and I did a complete overhaul. The link structure has changed because the old one was very bad. That being said, I'm doing 301s manually on about 1,800 pages. I prioritise what to move first based on SEO landing pages report in Google Analytics. The stuff that has the most impressions and clicks goes first, and some content is clearly bad, so I will just 301 to a suitable section of the new site. I'm about halfway through with my 301s. Should I wait until I finish all my 301s, or can I indicate in Google Webmaster Tools that the domain has moved?
So I think you can do this at the same time. If you read the Moving Your Site Recommendations to Help document from Google, I think they say move your site, just put in all the 301 redirects, verify all of the existing domain, the new domain, and Webmaster Tools, and then use the change of domain notification thing within Webmaster Tools to tell Google at the same time you're doing the migration. So I would implement all 1,800 301 redirects, just release them all in one go, assuming that they're all right. Make sure you test and test and test and test to make sure that they're right. But if you're confident that all of the redirects are in good shape, release all of the redirects, use the change of address tool, and then verify your new domain and start monitoring what's going on.
Okay, anybody else? All right. Number 10 on your run list is from Hardiel Singh. Should I move all the sites to HTTPS since this is the ranking signal now? Should we move them regardless if these are e-commerce or not? Yeah, look, I've read that badly, but I'm sure you guys get the gist of that. In other words, Hardiel is asking, is there enough value in Google's promotion of HTTPS and declaring it a weak ranking signal? Is it worthwhile to go ahead and buy that certificate and implement SSL on their websites?
I'm assuming. I'm assuming the way he's asked it, he's not an e-commerce site. So for me personally, at the minute, it's such a minimal ranking signal, combined with the other 2, 3, 4, 500, that if you don't need to do it now, or I wouldn't put it on top of the list of your priorities at the minute. If you are an e-commerce site, I would do it anyway because it's just good for your users.
Yeah, one of the things that's a pain about it is that oftentimes the implementation of secured search is fairly complicated for a lot of sites. So you also, it's one of those bang for the bucks. If it's You want to do it for your e-commerce, yes. You want to do it in situations maybe outside of e-commerce where there's a value for users. But the implementation is fairly technical, and it's kind of yeah. I mean, it's difficult, and so trying to implement something like that for just a week value out of it is probably not going to be something done for a lot of sites, at least not right away. But it's not it's not something to discount at a certain point. Whether or not Google kind of opens up, not opens up, but if Google ever expands upon kind of the value and weight of that factor, then that of course changes things. You have to kind of think about the long term if Google is going to decide it's time to kind of expand kind of what that value is. But at least for the time being, I don't think we'll find a huge amount of sites really kind of focus on it because it does have a bit of complication that can create fairly quickly a lot of negative output if it's not implemented correctly. So.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Next we have one from a good supporter of the SEO Questions community on Google+. Niraj Kumar asks, what will happen if I don't provide a meta description to the web pages of my site? He goes on to say, I have seen that Google provides snippet content according to the query and shows the most relevant sentence from the page. But with my little experience and not much resources and time, I cannot verify this. Many times I've posted a query here which is actually a statement, and I want you seniors with vast experiences in the area to suggest or support. This is my way of learning. You're very welcome, Niraj, and so I would have to ask one of you seniors from your vast store of knowledge to enlighten Niraj. Come on.
Well, Google does pick up some sentences from your web page, so it's a good way to see how Google sees your page if you leave out the meta descriptions. But personally, I prefer to use meta descriptions and make them myself. But Google is quite good in finding good sentences to go into the snippet on the SERPs. So you can leave them out.
So it's not going to hurt you by having or not having a meta description set, right? So Google doesn't rank. Your rankings won't change up or down by having a meta description set or not set. It's not a ranking factor for Google. Your meta description can obviously affect the click-through rate in the search results. If you've got a really compelling meta description compared to a competitor, you can get more clicks for your website than they are if they've got a really bland one. So, if you've got high-value landing pages, like highly commercial or high, they generate a lot of leads for you or something like that, it might be in your interest to manually set a really creative, compelling meta description, and then maybe on some of your deeper pages within your site, maybe it's not as worthwhile setting it, and you're happy to let Google auto-generate a snippet for you based on the user's query. So, yeah.
I used to make up my meta descriptions based on the best performing AdWords texts with the highest click-through rates.
Yeah, that's a great idea. It's a good way for you to be able to test it too. I mean, you can empirically test the click-through rate in a creative using AdWords. That being said, now that Google has got the click-through rate data in Webmaster Tools as well. If you've got sufficient volume of queries coming to a given landing page, you can actually monitor the click-through rate through there as well, which is kind of nice. Probably not as scientific or granular as using AdWords, but you know, it's another place for you to actually get real data about the click-through rate of a search result.
Okay. All right. There's nothing more to add to this. Okay, Niraj, that's it. Alex G asks, the change of address feature, what the hell is going on here? Excuse me a moment. Oh, that's all right. I accidentally clicked something on the question. Okay, so we noticed that I suppose we meant to do something generic, but it actually goes to a live site. Anyway, Alex G asked a question about the change of address feature in Google Webmaster Tools. He says it only works with the root domain. How can I use it for a subdomain? Simple answer is you can't. He says we moved a subdomain URL address to another subdomain, abc.mysite.com is 301 redirecting to xyz.mysite.com. And the question is, how do I go about the change in Webmaster Tools? The change of address feature only works with root domains, and I cannot use it for subdomains. What is the proper way to notify Google crawlers about my subdomain change? Thanks, Alex G.
I've never tested this, but I just assumed that if you were to go and verify the subdomain, so abc.mysite.com in Webmaster Tools, that the change of address tool would work. As an example, if you were to go and verify www.mysite.com, which is a subdomain, the change of address tool will work in there, will it not? So I think that abc.mysite.com would work too, if it was verified. If not, let's just say that it genuinely doesn't work for some reason, well then it doesn't work. So make sure you've implemented the 301 redirects correctly and move on. That's it.
In the comments, they say that the change of address doesn't work for subdomain.
It will work if you verify the subdomain and do it on that verified page. But
okay.
probably,
yeah.
most likely, they're trying to do it on the root domain.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Then it will work.
It makes no sense to me that an arbitrary subdomain, if it was verified, wouldn't work, given that it absolutely works if you were to go and verify www.something, that it will work.
Okay. All right. I've learned something new. In fact, every week I learn something new doing this. I'm really loving it. Ritu Ahuja asks, would you please give me some suggestions on how to improve the page loading speed? Ritu says, hi everyone. When I see speed suggestions for my site, it says that the page loading speed is low because of the size of the images. Please suggest how I should compress the images. And then it says and put, but I suppose compress the images and FTP them back to the site, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, the page links. I mean, there's generally you've got two good ones that were noted in the comments already: the GT metrics and the page speed Google's PageSpeed Insights. Those are great ways to kind of starting point. They actually provide some pretty nice recommendations. Not only that, but they are often very difficult to even get a good grade on. So they provide quite a bit. Yeah, those are kind of like the two that usually I prefer, and depending kind of on your site, it's gonna vary a bit of what you need to do. If they're recommending kind of compressing images, if they're recommending kind of a variety of other things, you can generally assume that the recommendation provided are fairly helpful, and they're not going to be like an impact in negative impact in other areas. So, depending on your site, the kind of implementation you need to do will vary, but check those out.
Okay, any more? All right, question 14 on your run list, guys. Another one from Sylvan Fay. I'm having trouble deciding on my strategy for keywords. Please help. I have a website with a store page and individual product pages, and I'm having trouble deciding on my strategy for keywords. In my store, all of my products have a central keyword niche that they fit into that's perfect, and that I'm frequented with. The issue is I feel like trying to rank for that same keyword on my store's front page, as well as each individual product page. Might be redundant and cause a conflict of interest. Or is it? What should I do for my e-commerce store? I want to be more specific, but due to the nature of what I do, I feel like I need to give a warning first. It's slightly adult in nature, but I can get more specific if needed. Thanks. A lot of blokes here are slightly adult in nature. Tim Capper needs specifics. Well, we already know it's the nude cosplay site. It's the same name, Sylvan Bay.
So I would, I think what Selwyn's doing in terms of optimizing an individual product page is the right course to go for sure. She's taking photos of different cosplay outfits and scenes and stuff that she's made clothing and stuff for. So I think that's all cool and the right way to go. She could then come up and put some good quality descriptive content onto her e-commerce page, her home page, for instance, and then maybe link from her product pages to that e-commerce overview page with link text like cosplay, custom-made cosplay outfits, or custom cosplay costumes, or whatever the phrase is that she feels that she wants to rank for. She should optimize the copy for on that particular page that's generic and not the costume-specific versions that she's using inside her deep pages, and then link back to that page, to the parent page with the appropriate link text that matches the content.
That's cool, Alistair. Can we have any others to answer this one?
Well, I noticed she overuses the H1 a lot as well in her menu items and all kind of other places. So she should have a look at that too.
Yeah, like if she uses it 3 times, each H1 is perhaps less than a third of each as much strength. Is that what
menu items. So it's all over the site, all the same H1s, which looks not too well.
Yeah. Kieran, could you mute your mic when you're not talking, please, mate? That's it. Well done. Okay. All right. Sylvan Fay, I hope that you're happy with that, but please feel free to ask it again on the SEO Questions community on Google+. A question from Gabriel Partenay. I have around 10 new dofollow links from a PageRank 5 business directory. Is it safe, or could I be penalized by Google? Hi, I have added a few months ago my website to a PR5 business directory. I saw that each month from this directory I have around 10 new dofollow links. Is this normal, or could I be penalized by Google for it? Thanks.
I don't think it's normal that apparently every month new links are added to his site from that site. I don't think that's normal, is it?
Well, I guess it depends. That they might have him on, say, on the front page of their blog, and it changes with each story. Oh, hang on, no, that wouldn't work. Actually, forget I spoke.
No, I can see why you would get more than one link, but every month 10 more links, that's a lot, isn't it?
Yes, look, I'm sorry for that, Lowell. David Rosam, that link I gave you further back in the chat was to the panelist report. I'll put it back in the chat again. And the username and password, you'll need to log on to that. And it will give you an easier way to track the questions as we go through. We also have a feature where, say for argument's sake, Dave Elliott, who's a moderator on our community, he can't log on to our Hangouts, but he can add an answer under the panelist answer section on your run list on the panelist report, and you can respond to him so on. So Dave, if you're listening, do something and we can test this. All right, next one is from Hari Babu. One of my website keywords has been coming in on the 4th page. What can I do to improve the position? There has been no position change for that keyword for the last 2 months. Don't fight over it.
Well, obviously the tactics that you've been using are not sufficient. It could be, for instance, that you're in quite a competitive niche or competitive industry, for instance, and the work that you've been doing, maybe it is the correct tactic, but the competitors that are ranking above you are substantially stronger than you are, so displacing them for position 3, for instance, is actually very hard, just as an example. So it might not necessarily be that it's the wrong tactic. It could also be that it's the wrong tactic, so it's hard to know for sure. One thing that you could look at is if you're not getting any movement on that particular keyword, maybe have a look to see whether or not there are surrounding keywords that might provide you some opportunity along the same line, but keyword variations. That way you can get additional traffic, and by the time you've sought extra traffic off these different phrase variations, maybe it'll have helped you rank for the primary phrase that you wanted to go for as well.
Okay. By the way, if you look at that link there, Tim, Dave Elliott has responded to an earlier question. You might like to read it. Not sure if Dave's aware or not, but those answers that he gives on the panelist report actually go directly onto the website. Okay, I'll tidy that up later. All right, here is a question from the inimitable Dave Elliott. Does anyone know of a decent multilingual sitemap maker? I.e., for example, one that will sort out the following fairly automatically. And then Dave gives an example of some sitemap listings, which I won't read out, but you can see them in the SEO Questions community on Google+. And he says, I really don't want to do this manually. Or can I just set up Webmaster Tools to do the individual folders, tell Google which nationality this folder is for, and that will do, or at least until I find 8 hours to do the stuff properly.
So a Google search for XML sitemap builder HREFLANG support yields 2 different things that I can see in page 1 that would be useful. The first one is on the mediaflow.com. The second one looks as though it's on, let me just make sure that it's real. Yes. So the MediaFlow one, you upload a CSV file of all of your URLs by the looks, and it'll produce all of the hreflang tags for you. The second one is on acronym.com. And you can download a tool from them to do it for you. So there you go.
Cool. I imagine, are you happy with that, David Elliott? Could you put something on your panelist report to let us know? We can come back to it if there is. Next, we have a question from Nagayan Banglakes, who asks, can anyone tell me how to exclude traffic from this site? And he gives a listing from a site which is one of those free traffic exchanges, hitleap.com, and it's sending him tens of thousands of hits, which are 100% bounce rate and 0 time on site.
What's the referral source for the traffic?
It's a site, you can have a look at it, it's hitleap, HITLEAP.com. And it's the sort of site where you look at other sites and quid pro quo, other sites will look at you. Or at least that's how it's supposed to work, but it never does.
Yeah. So on this on this question, it a little bit kind of varies depending on what his goal is if he's just looking to block it out of Google Analytics, You can create some IP filters. You can do a source or medium filter inside a GA. That, however, will only knock out the traffic in your JavaScript analytics. It doesn't necessarily block the actual specific traffic that's coming into your website. So, this is where, depending on, I guess, your log server, if you've got an IT team, then knowing kind of some of that detail of what you have on kind of the back end will be helpful to try to block it out. Particularly if you're able to block the specific IP. That, assuming they're using a single IP, that's some of the ways you can kind of try to permanent knock that out. I think those are kind of the quick things. That said, if this is a one-time thing based on at least the image that shows that you posted, it looked like it came out for 2 days and hasn't shown up since. If that's the case, you don't necessarily need to spend the time on that. You just need to kind of note to exclude that data whenever you're looking into that information in the past. So just make sure you're justifying the time on that.
Something else you can do there too is this is not a retroactive thing, but Google Analytics has in the profile settings there's filters that you can set up, and the filters in Google Analytics will let you essentially alter the traffic that ultimately lands up in your profile. So, for instance, you could exclude all traffic from a given domain or a given referral source, for instance.
Or their new system, their new filter ability of blocking JavaScript bots.
Yeah. So in this instance, if this traffic from HitLeap was sustained and it wasn't just a burst, and you really wanted to get rid of those 20,000 sessions out of your analytics on an ongoing basis, you could add a filter into Google Analytics to exclude that traffic, which would work okay. You could, if you were using Google Tag Manager, for instance, you could also put a macro in basically to say don't fire the Tag Manager or don't fire the tracker when the referrer is HitLeap. That would also work. Another option would be to put in a redirect and to redirect that traffic somewhere else. So instead of letting the HitLeap traffic actually hit your site, you send it to Google, for instance, because you don't want the traffic. Or like Micah said, you could block the traffic entirely so that when they try and access your site, it actually errors and gives you a 503 forbidden, HitLeap traffic is not allowed to view this site, go away type error. So there's some options for you to consider. The one comment I would make about the Google Analytics option though is that you can't apply that retroactively. So it'll only, if you put a filter in to filter the traffic, it will filter that traffic on an ongoing basis moving forward. But any traffic that's already logged into your analytics account right now, it won't change.
You can, however, set up a segment or just do a quick report filter, and you can save the custom segment. You can save the what was the phrase that analytics use? You can save the dashboard with your settings as well. So whenever you log in, you have that custom report set up to that is permanently there, and as long as you're using that, then you don't have to worry too much anymore within that specific report. So as long as you're saving the reports for what you normally look at least you have that kind of retroactively. But it's as Alistair is saying, if you need it for across the board, you can only fix that going forward.
Okay. All right. So anybody else? Here's a question from Grace Jolliffe. Grace asks, "Is it okay to just approve a pingback, or is there something else I should be doing?" She said, "I received a pingback notification on my site, Another site, a good site, has linked to and recommended a page on my site. Is it okay just to approve the pingback, or is there something else I should be doing? With thanks, Grace. Grace, what I'd be doing is getting in touch. Micah Fisher-Kirshner is leaving us. Safe journey to work, mate. Okay. Grace, what I would be doing is getting in touch. You've obviously gained a fan, especially if it's a good site. Only good things can come of it. I'd be getting in touch and saying hello. Anybody else to add to that? It must be better than my answer.
Which question, Jim? Sorry.
It's question 19.
Yeah, just if you want to approve it, approve it. It's not going to hurt anything. You might find that the pingbacks on your site that link back to them, they might be automatically no-followed in the template in WordPress, for instance, if you're using WordPress. At which point, you know, no harm, no foul, basically. So approve it if you like.
Okay. All right. Next question that we have is from David Jones. When I include www after the site operator, it shows 0 indexed results. But I do see results with the www omitted. How is that possible?
So this is pretty simple. If you do site:mydomain.com, Google's going to return you all content that they know about on that root domain. So URLs that are literally on mydomain.com/about, or if you had subdomains like, you know, myshop.mydomain.com, for instance, those would show up as well. So that's what that will do. If you do site:www.mydomain.com, Google will only return you the URLs that are attached to that full domain. So in this instance, if you've got no results coming back for www.mydomain.com, Google has simply not indexed any content against that domain. That might be because, for instance, you choose to run your website under the root domain, so just mydomain.com, without the www, and that's completely okay if that's what you've chosen to do. If, on the other hand, you're choosing to run your site under www and Google hasn't got any content indexed, then obviously that's a problem that you should investigate.
Okay, so our next is from Aaron Katz. I need feedback on how I can better tailor my site for SEO and potential advertising. Aaron said, I just put together a site for my dad so we can drum up some more business. I'd appreciate any feedback, especially in how I can better tailor my site for SEO and potential advertising. Thanks. And he gives a domain www.dralkatzdds.com, dralkatzdds.com. Can I ask for some suggestions for Aaron Katz?
Go to. Hang on. I'm just viewing it now.
I imagine it would be a very competitive area, dentistry.
So, since he's a local business, the first thing that he should do, that's not necessarily an on-site thing on his website, is to make sure he's got his Google Plus page set up for his business, which will make sure that when someone does a search for Pomona dentists, for instance, or whatever, his business is eligible to show up with its phone number and address in the Google search results directly, separate to the sort of normal website listings. Second, after they've set up his actual Google Plus local listing, he needs to then go and include his business information as it appears inside his Google Plus local listing, inside all of the high quality national and state level directories that exist. So things like Yellow Pages or Yelp or Yext or all of those type of big business directories. If there's state level directories, he should look at those as well. If there's city level directories for dentists or medical practitioners, he should look for those. If there's borrow niche websites to do with dentistry or things of that nature, he should look to see if he can get his website listed in those as well. But only if they're high quality. He definitely shouldn't go and look to submit his website to 1,000 directories for $5. For instance, that would be the worst thing he could do. So that would be the first immediate thing I would have a look at.
Good advice, Alistair, I think.
He's using WordPress, so most of the SEO stuff for his site will be largely taken care of to the largest degree. He's using the Yoast plugin to help optimize some stuff, which is cool. He's not blocking anything in his robot site text, which is good. What other things?
I only found one 404 on the services. Preventive care gives a 404. So that's something that should be fixed, right?
I see you've had a haircut this week, Tim. Either that or you've had an accident repairing the lawnmower, one or the other.
One thing, I'm looking at the cosmetic dentistry page as an example, and the title tag on that is simply cosmetic dentistry, Alan Katz, DDS, which is not horrible, but people are obviously going to be looking for cosmetic dentists in New York City or Pomona or whatever his the city was, for instance, that he's in. So he should look to be including the city name or suburb or whatever it's relevant for his particular business throughout his title tags without being spammy. You want it to look really nice in the search results, and include that kind of language in his body copy of his pages as well. I think something else that I would look to do in due course, this is obviously something that you can't do immediately, but I would look on his cosmetic dentistry page as an example to probably break out each of those services, so teeth whitening, crowns, bridges, dental bonding, etc., into their own pages, and maybe he can get a hold of some before and after photos from his father, so that he can basically illustrate the great work that his dad does or whatever as a cosmetic dentist, because customers want to know that he can do great work. Similarly, it would be fantastic if he could get some testimonials from past customers saying that he's fantastic. If he does kids, if he does kids dentistry and things like that as well, some comments for call out the fact that he does kids as well somewhere in his site. Maybe get some comments from some mothers or fathers that have brought their kids in there saying how happy their kids were, and that he was very considerate towards them and helped get over their fear of the dentist and all that kind of stuff if he's really good with kids. Similarly, on the kids front, maybe that's a link building opportunity for him to go and find kids communities and kids websites, like parenting websites and things like that, that might be based around his area, to maybe see if he can get some promotional activity happening inside those sites to drive some more referral traffic and links to his website too.
Cool.
And optimize the Google Plus page. It now has not a blue hat, but something similar.
Okay. Have we covered this one? Can we move on or not?
Yep.
Okay, let's move on to a question from Rita Ahuja, who wants a clarification from you guys. She would like to know, what are backlinks? Is the internal linking called backlinks, or links we post on social network sites? Or is anything which leads to my site called a backlink? I'm confused with this term, and I've seen a lot of fellow bloggers using it. I would appreciate any help.
So any links basically from a third-party site to reader's website is a backlink. So if you get a link from yahoo.com to your website, that would be a backlink, for instance. Links that are within your own website are typically referred to as internal links. If you link to someone, so if you link from your website to Yahoo, that's typically referred to as an outbound link. So that's how that works.
She also asked about social links, and yes, they are backlinks, but most of them are no followed, which means that they aren't in the link graph and there is no search value.
Yep. Okay, our next question is from Chris M. Cloutier, who's asked a number of questions of us. Chris asks, do you think this is okay to publish two articles with the same keywords on different blogs, probably even with the same title? Chris goes on to say, what's up guys, I'm wondering about a test I want to run. I've got a new blog and an existing one. I want to write a post on both blogs that targets the same keyword with probably even the same title. Do you think this is okay, or will Google think I'm trying something funny? Thanks. I'm forever trying something funny, but Google never notices. Well, they don't see the joke, something like that anyway. while the guys are thinking about that, or are you guys still back on that nude cosplay site?
I never left it, Jim.
Pardon?
I never left it. It's just been taking me a while to get through it because it loads a bit slow. That's why I recommended that she speed it up. You know, that way I can, you know, get some more action.
Okay. What about Chris's question? I don't think it's a good idea to. I mean, why compete against yourself? If you can write an article, put the effort into one and make a good article there, and on the other blog, write about something else. I don't see the point of competing. I mean, Google's really not going to let you have two spaces. That they'll eventually work out the association between one blog and the other, and you won't get both of them listed. Or am I off base here? Am I wrong, as usual?
Well, the test he wants to run, it's a little bit confusing for me. So he wants basically the same keyword and the same title. I'm not sure what he's running, what he's wanting to test.
David, I cut you out there before. Did you want to speak? We're not getting any sound, David. Your mic isn't muted, but we're not getting any sound. You look great, mate, but we can't hear you. Right. You don't know signing for the deaf, do you? Okay, look.
So he wants to test exact match domain, domain age, and authority. So I assume the existing one isn't an exact domain, exact match domain, but I'm not sure how you would test that, to be honest.
Just let me interrupt you there, Edwin. Alistair, thank you very, very much for your contribution tonight.
That's okay. See you all. See you next week.
See you later, mate. Thank you. Rob Mars said in the chat that he wants to see, does he want to see which one is stronger, which one shows up the highest? That's a possibility too, Rob.
So he wants to test duplicated content then, scrapers content. See if the scraped blog is ranking or not.
I think in the comments on the community he clarified and said that that the articles wouldn't be the same; they'd just be targeting the same keyword. He says, actually, I'm reading from the comments made on the community. He says the post will be completely unique, with the exception of the title. The point of all this is that I run a community with a buddy where we discuss things related to marketing, mostly affiliate marketing. The new blog is a kind of a case study blog. I'm trying to test things like exact match domains, domain age, authority, and basically anything else we can come up with. This will be one of those tests.
Well, I'm thinking, what are you testing? And basically, you want to test one thing, right? So you don't want to test a whole bunch because then you don't know what affected what was the reason for it. Then you only know that one site ranks higher than the other site.
Okay. Yeah, I pretty much agree with you, Edwin.
Finally.
No good. Tim's still back on the nude cosplay site. All right, Chris, I hope that's enough for you. Feel free, of course, as always, to ask it again on the SEO Questions community on Google+. Jack Nickel asks, I have a quick question. Do bad online reviews influence PPC? It's an interesting question. I see somebody on the community said something that I hadn't thought of. Let me see what it was. Greg Barker said, if you are using a rating system that feeds info into Google, then your ratings, the stars, can show up in your PPC ads. If your ratings are bad, then that will show up in your PPC ads and lower your clicks, your click-through ratio. Who is going to look at a supplier with a 2 out of 5 rating? It's, of course, a very good point. So the question is, do bad online reviews influence PPC?
Influence what on PPC?
Well, it influences anything on PPC, of course. I think that's what he's asking.
Well, it doesn't have a direct effect in Google AdWords itself, if that's what you're asking.
So the quality score, that's calculated only on the relevance of the landing page to the ad itself, is that right?
It's based on many factors, almost 200 by now.
The quality score is...
Yeah. So I never heard that bad quality score or bad what's it called, ratings do anything for it. I even wonder if they show it with your ad if they are so low. I think they will leave them out, but I'm not quite sure about that.
Okay. Well, Jack Nickel, I hope we've given you something, but I feel sure that we can do better. If anything requires clarification, please ask it again on the SEO Questions community. Manoj Kumar asks, what are the...
I would like to advise him up front that he should improve his business to get rid of the bad ratings.
Yeah,
isn't that a good advice?
Yep. Masataki Wasa is back with us. I've got a feeling your mic might be working too now, David.
Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Good.
and they were having before. Anyway. All right. Manoj Kumar is asking, what are the new techniques in 2014 to optimize a website and drive traffic? Thank you, Manoj.
Can I come back to the last question? They only show ratings when they are 3.5 or higher.
But is that in an ad, or is that just generally?
In an ad, yeah.
Yeah, we're up to question 25, Mr. Taki. All right. Manoj, look, there are no new techniques. There are perhaps less techniques, a lot of techniques which have been discredited. But I guess the silence you're hearing is an indication of how broad your question is. And I feel sure that if you were to ask this question again on the SEO Questions community, but this time be more specific, that you'll get a better answer.
Well,
I'm sorry. You go ahead.
There's one new ranking signal, the HTTPS, but if that would drive you more traffic, well, I don't know that, because it's such a small signal that maybe the rankings don't change when you change to HTTPS. So I think that's new, isn't it?
Yes, but I mean, I don't know that we should give so much attention to this. I mean, Google itself says that it's a weak ranking signal amongst 500 other signals, and I'd hate to think of all of these people out there with sites that are suboptimal, or at least the performance is always going to be suboptimal. There's nothing wrong with the sites themselves, and there are people working very, very hard at them. But I think it's an imposition for them to go out and spend another $100 or however much a year for something which certainly won't return them $100. I mean, some people are lucky to be making $100 out of their website. I don't think that it's so important that it has to be done. It will, wish Alistair was still here because he knows these things backwards, but I'm guessing that if a site is SSL, and the referrer is an SSL site, like Google search results are SSL. If a site is SSL, then the referral data can be passed if they're both SSL sites.
Yeah, but Google isn't doing that. Yahoo does give the referral data if your site is on SSL, but Google isn't doing that. They don't give referral data, even on HTTPS. So from HTTPS to HTTPS. Make sense?
Okay. Yeah, it does. It does. I think that's. So I think it's a mistake on Google's part.
But
because Bing does.
Yeah, and Yahoo does also. And through AdWords, you can.
Sites that I manage. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I cut. Edwin, go ahead.
Well, you get the referral data if you for the paid search, but not for organic search.
Yeah, look, I think that's just. I mean, it proves that they have the data as long as you're paying for it. I think that's one step too far. I think they've crossed the line with that. But certainly, with some of the sites that I manage, I'm getting way more information from Yahoo and Bing than I am from Google, even though Google provides the lion's share of traffic to the sites. And I just don't understand their reasoning behind it. I really don't. I think it's pig ignorant. Anyway, anybody else? Okay, so let's.
There's always this. Ah, okay, sorry. I was just saying that there's always this idea that there's a silver bullet, the latest thing that comes up. Everyone says, oh, yes, we must do it. But as we've said earlier, there are hundreds of factors at work. I think we've just got to stop doing this knee-jerk reaction to anything that Google says. Just seems, you know, the usual old thing that Google says something and we must all do it. And the real game is to get as much of this stuff done well as possible. But don't get hung up on one thing or another. End of.
Yeah. Yep. Fair enough. All right. Hina Shah asks a question. Hina Shah, I think, is a young lady. Tim, perhaps you might want to answer this for her. It's she asks, please show me how to optimize my keywords. She says, what does optimizing keywords mean? And can you suggest some ways to optimize keywords?
I assume she means how to optimize a website for certain keywords? Or does she literally wants to know how to optimize keywords?
I imagine that she means how to optimize her website for certain keywords. Yeah.
Simple, by creating great content around those keywords.
Yep, that's very true. Anybody else?
Well, yes. Optimizing on great content. It can be a good read. It can be great and generally informative, but it may not interact properly with Google, with the search engines, because the writer hasn't done the basic things of putting these keywords into title tags and H tags and so on and so forth. It's this is the old meta tag problem in a way. You know, you have a page about sausages and you put dentistry, high performance cars and orange jelly in the meta tags. It's got to work as a whole. It's got to be themed. Yes, you've got to have representative good content rather than good content. If that helps.
Yeah, very true. Of course it helps. Yep. Anybody else? All right, we're battling for time tonight. We've still got a few questions to cover in a huge news section. So we'll move on from Hina's question, and I hope that that's been helpful to you. Stephen Sicantelli, who runs Abraxi Taxis in the USA, is there any way to hide my site from the enemy, like a Klingon anti-cloaking app? As Stephen says, I see that some SEO sites offer a way for me to spy on my competitors, which is kind of cool. Is there any way to hide my site from the enemy? You can't have it both ways, Stephen. I suppose that's the answer to this, Stephen, and that is that if you put it on the web, it belongs to everybody. It's accessible to everybody. And there are businesses out there crawling and dissecting and slicing and dicing and presenting reports in different ways and charging a monthly fee of $99 a month or whatever. And competitive data is what people pay for. So as long as there's a market for competitive data, there'll always be people to fulfill that need or fulfill that demand, I guess. Anybody else? Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Sicantelli. I wish we could have done better for you tonight, but next time maybe. Juanito Gallen asks, do directory listings, or are directory listings still useful now in SEO, or no help in getting ranked?
They can be useful, but most of them aren't. In the comments, he refers to an article that lists 100 free directories. I wouldn't go that route. I would. It's too risky to include your business on every directory there is. I will be very careful these days.
Yes, I think any directory that you post in should be related to your niche. It doesn't have to be located in your town. But as Alistair said earlier regarding the cosmetic dentist, there'll be state level and there'll be federal level directories, and it would be immensely valuable to make sure that the dentist is in those directories with a link back to his site. That would be very valuable, but certainly not into a plumber's directory, for argument's sake. That would be absolutely useless. All right, let's call that answered for Juanito. And next, here is one from Muiz bin Hamid, who asks, hi there, I was just wondering how to build links in a safe way. Any thoughts? Is using tools such as Magic Submitter okay? If not, then how can we build links, and how many links a month can we generate? And if someone likes a post on Facebook or +1s on Google+, does that count as a link as well? Muiz said, I hope we can have a healthy debate on it, and says thanks. And because he said thanks, let's give him a good answer.
No, you can't use that submitter thing. They're just going to build you crap directory links, which will multiply. More than likely, you'll make the mistake of over-optimizing the anchor text, which is basically pretty much toxic, and ultimately you will, look at a potential penalty depending on how many you submit. Facebook, Google+, there are no follows. I haven't really seen a lot of Facebook links show up within Webmaster Tools, but certainly the Google+ ones do. Even though they're no follow, it still shows interaction within the site. especially if other people are sharing your page. So even though they no follow, it still gives Google a sort of an interaction signal. So I wouldn't just the thing is, what you've got to remember is you're building your brand on social media. Forget about the actual linking process itself. So how can you build links? Well, if you want to build links, you've got to build a reputation. So what do? Are you part of the business community in the community you're in? So is there a chamber of commerce? That's a great link. Do you do any regular charity work with the business? If you do, the next time you're doing that, get a photographer in. Have a little chat to, if they send a local press person along, have a little chat. Invariably, you might get a mention in the newspaper, which invariably then goes online. Become an authority in your field. Participate in forums, in Google Plus communities, on Facebook with like-minded people within your industry. Build up a reputation. You could also keep an eye out on things like, for example, help a reporter out, Harrow, where they, and I'm assuming depending on which country you're in, they might have one. So what it is reporters are looking to write an article, and you can basically bookmark to get a ping if a reporter is looking for something in your kind of area, and if that story that they're looking to write kind of fits within your expertise, then send them your thoughts. Invariably, it gets published in very, very well, well published newspapers and online, and invariably you get a link, whether that's follow or no follow. Doesn't really matter, because you're getting yourself out there. As your brand builds, then so will natural links. Provide great content on your site. What's going on in the industry, new things that are happening. Think of interesting ways that you provide some form of value to the user that they want to share your content. So if you're let's say you're an accountant and an extremely boring kind of thing, I mean, how can you jazz up your content? Well, you've got all sorts of legal updates coming in every year. Make sure you're on top of those and you publish them first and push those out on social media to the people that you're interacting with. Provide some kind of tool. Can you, in your industry, provide some kind of tool or interaction on your site that is helpful to people? So let's say you're an accountant, a tax calculator, a tax bracket calculator, something that people will pick up on and share. Let's say it's nails. Provide a page on your site where people can paint their nails in different shades of colors to see. You've got to create user value to a user if you want them to share something. They're not going to share a crappy little blog post that's just rehashed stuff. So take your time and think about how users are going to interact and benefit from the content that you put on your site. The minute you start creating that, people start sharing your content. When people start sharing your content, they start creating links. So you've got your offsite of marketing, where getting involved with the community, the business communities, things like that, generating links that way, and of course generating links from content on your site. Do you have suppliers? Are you in an industry where you have a lot of suppliers? Speak to all your suppliers. Get a link back from them. So basically on their site it would be, these are the industries we supply, or the shops that we supply. where you can get our product or whatever the case may be, and a link back. Build up relationships. The point is, you need to, if you're going to go out there and push yourself out there in order to get a link, you're only going to be pushing yourself out there to places that are relevant. Those directory submissions are not relevant at all. They're absolutely meaningless. And you know, I think every site in the past has used them. I don't think I've ever seen a dot of traffic ever come back from one of those sites. You get clients that come to me and their site is riddled with these flipping links. If you look in analytics, there's never ever in the history of the site since that link was alive had a bit of traffic come through. So the point is, do you want traffic or do you want links? You know, these things are toxic, they'll kill you, but you want traffic. So find that traffic, market yourself. Forget this whole online kind of build links and I'm going to rank and I'm going to make money. It doesn't work that way. You need to get out there and market yourself. And by marketing yourself and creating a brand and creating something that people want to interact with, you will get traffic, you'll get brand recognition, and you will gain your natural links, and then you will start appearing in your search vertical. It's hard work. There's no quick fix. You've just got to start at the first bit, work through your ideas, and plug away at it.
Jim, are you here?
I don't know where he is.
No,
No,
maybe he fell asleep.
No, it's okay. I'm suffering from the flu, and I didn't think you guys would want to see the white tissue, so I temporarily turned my camera off, but I forgot to turn it back on again. So while you've been just looking for me, I've been sitting here merrily talking away, having a great conversation with myself. I'm such an idiot. Anyway, sorry about that, guys. All right, Muiz bin Hamid, I hope that was the healthy debate that you were looking for. Actually, I think it was just Tim debating with himself, wasn't it? All right, next is a question from, and I'm not going to try and read out the name, but it's from Arthur Granosik, who wants to know, I need to know, is it possible to put a +1 button on my company profile? Arthur says, good morning, I have a technical problem with my company profile in Google+. I need to know, is it possible to put the +1 button on this page? Thank you for your help.
Well, basically, that +1 button was removed, and instead of the +1 button, you now have the view count. The +1 button is still there if the place or location isn't verified. So if you have a verified page, there is no +1 button.
Yeah.
I was wondering about it too. Oh,
sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mastaka.
You can still have a +1 button on your site, not on your Google Plus page, but on the linked site. And you could have badge, Google Plus badge, that has the follow button, and then it has a +1 button as well. So they still exist, and as far as I know, the +1s, if someone +1s the website, either the +1 button or through a badge, then that +1 is then synchronized, even though you don't see it anymore on Google Plus pages, unless they are unverified local pages.
Okay. All right. right, let's call that an answer for Arthur. Next, we have a question from Micah Fisher-Kirchner, who wants us to clarify HREFLANG. The question is titled, would implementing of HREFLANG allow sites to auto-translate and then allow them to still be shown to Google? Micah says, surprisingly, I do not see this specified anywhere on the web, so I think it's something we could directly answer for the community. Auto-translation is generally bad and should be no indexed or blocked. The question is, would implementing of HREFLANG allow sites to auto-translate and then allow them to be still shown to Google, or should they be no indexed and blocked from Google? Be interested to hear what you guys have to say about that.
Well, I think the crux is the auto-generated content. Google doesn't want that, so it shouldn't be in the index, and I don't think it will be helpful to have to use the HREFLANG to auto-generated content. So.
Anybody else?
No, I think I agree with Edwin, because I think the pertinent question is.
I think.
Go ahead, Rob.
Okay, I think the algo will find automated translated pages or recognize them quite easily and just won't let them in. So.
That's true. Yeah, but I think the pertinent question is the should the pages be in index first place? And the answer is, in a sense, no, because it's auto-generated, as Edwin pointed out. So that, I think, that should be the starting point. But then I suppose the question is there any point in doing HREFLANG? Because if they're no indexed, not going to appear at all.
The way I understand,
HREFLANG only matters for pages that are indexed and recognized and likely to be shown, because the only thing that Google does is listen to you which one of the pages you want to have shown when they found one of those.
Okay. So let's consider a situation: you have an English page, right? And you've auto-translated that into Dutch. Mm-hmm. And you put HREFLANG, and then you have HREFLANG equals EN and HREFLANG equals NL. But NL is now no index because it's auto-translated. Now the question is, even if the search was conducted in Dutch in Netherlands, the English page would have appeared. Now, because there's an HREFLANG, Google would, following the HREFLANG, would be substituting that EN page with NL, but the NL page is no index. So, is Google going to show the EN page still? I not follow the HREFLANG in a sense.
If you're looking with Dutch words, I think it won't show either.
No, let's say it's a branded search.
Okay, branded search. It will show.
Let's say it's a branded search, and then you have, your site is in English, but you've created auto-translated page in Dutch, equivalent page for a particular product, which is a certain volume of branded search. So, okay, you're thinking this, as the Dutch page is auto-translated, it shouldn't be indexed. Okay, let's assume that that's the argument. But then you still put the HREFLANG in, right? So if people in the Netherlands, everything is in Dutch, search for the branded term, and let's say the English page would have appeared.
Mm-hmm. But there's the
despite the
HREFLANG.
search being conducted in Dutch. Now, Google sees this HREFLANG, and if it were to follow that, then it would be substituting, right? So instead of showing the English page at that position, following where it would have appeared, they are going to substitute it with the Dutch page, but the Dutch page is no index. Now what happens?
Shows the English page.
Yeah, because HREFLANG is not a strict directive, right? It's a suggestion.
Yes. Yes, I think you're right. Then potentially Google will lose the trust in the site with regard to HREFLANG. So maybe you do have translated content, human translated content, and then maybe Google says, well, we're not sure if we're going to follow that the HREFLANG for that particular site because of the no index of the other pages. Makes sense or not?
Yes, makes sense.
I'm getting confused.
Yeah, me too. And Rob is getting smaller and smaller.
All right, Micah, I hope we've done enough for you, particularly because you of all people, you get up so early in the morning to participate on SEO Questions. So I hope you feel that we value your efforts highly enough. All right, we've covered the questions in our community for yet another week, and if you do have a question on SEO, please ask it on the SEO Questions community on Google+. Now we move on to our weekly news, SEO news roundup, and we have another community for that. It's called SEO News Community. We used to call it SEO News, and at the time that we started the SEO News Community, nobody else was doing it. But now we have so many other people using the term SEO News that ours cannot be seen. So we've changed the name of it slightly to SEO News Community. So if you're looking for us, you'll find us on Google+ by searching for SEO News Community. We have 11 items each week. While we're doing our normal work, we will see things that pop up of interest around the web, and we'll copy them to the SEO News Community, and we then talk about them at this time after the questions are answered on our regular weekly hangout. This one was posted by me, I think, or initially I posted it there. It was a post of a original post made by Tim Capper, and he was telling us how easy it is to game Google, and I say that with a great deal of sadness because you'd think with all of Google's resources and all of Google's staff and what they've learned over the years, that they would have defences against this, but there's absolutely no doubt about it. This works. And Tim Camper said, don't try this at home, by the way. He said, I'll use an exact match domain. I'll create footer links with most of them pointing to the main domain. I'll create 13,000 forum comment links. I won't give you contact details. I won't give you company details. And I'll be number one on the search engine results page for a... well, but actually, Tim, how would you like to tell us all about it, mate?
Well, this came up where someone posted yesterday a very well-known foodie kind of website in the UK got hacked, and these, you know, we're still sitting on there for this term, Kamanga. I don't know what the hell it was. There was a new one on me. Basically, it's another variation on Viagra, you know, another generic kind of thing like Halasz, and so these are all like major spam queries, you know. So, but when I actually searched what the hell is Kamanga, right there, position 1 is a website that shouldn't be there. So it's an exact match domain, kamanga.com. The site, yeah, you know, it's well put together. You know, it's got all the bits and bobs. It uses, you know, SSL for, you know, the shopping cart, and it's well put together. However, in the footer link, you know, it's got a massive footer section with links which don't point to internal pages. I'd say about, you know, 60–70% of them all point back to the home page. Within the last 30 days, they got 13,000 forum comment links, the majority of all their links pointing to their site. So there's all these things which shouldn't be there. You know, we've got an EMD update, which, you know, you're not supposed to benefit straight away from an EMD. You've got links which shouldn't be there. You've got spammy practices in terms of footer links. In Google's leaked guidelines, one of the things that they played on now was specifically contact information on a site. Well, the site gives you an email address, that's it. You know, so there's all these things, and it's just like, you know, Jesus. You've got sites inadvertently sitting in a frickin' penguin penalty for what they or may not have done inadvertently. But here you've got these sites which are doing things which Google is continuously going on about, and it works. It flipping works, you know, and it's like, yeah, it's just, it's disheartening, really, to see it happening.
Yeah, that, I mean, I hear that everywhere I go around the web. Everybody that I talk to, everyone is just getting thoroughly cheesed off that tactics like this are working in this day and age, and they're working because Google has no defense against it. Google has a defense against the people that play the game, the people that stick around, that they can be punished, but Google is always, you know, is bound to be punishing after the fact. And to somebody who doesn't care if a website gets burned, someone that's prepared to churn and burn a website, Google has absolutely no defense. And while Google is so slow to react to these egregious behaviors, these people jump in, they make their profit. Eventually they get dinged, and they'll get dinged very badly and probably never get the site to rank again, but by then it's too late. They've already done the job, and they're gone, and they've already started with another website doing the same thing. And in the meantime, the loyal foot soldiers of the web, the bread and butter of the internet marketing industry, they're just sitting there getting slowly chiseled away by every new update, being sidelined a little bit more and more on that slow downhill run. While they're doing the march of death, these people breaking all the rules are making lots of money, and it is disheartening. Rob, I interrupted you. I'm so sorry, mate. Please go ahead. Kieran Varma, who's with us at the moment, asks in the chat, are we still on air? Yes, we have been known to be critical of Google from time to time, Kieran.
Yeah, but it's hard to blame Google for that, Jim.
Why? Well, I mean, Google's making the rules. Why can't we blame?
It's not. It's not at all. Google has systematically for the last let's say 5 years, basically in open, said this is how it's happening. They've expanded their guidelines. Google has not ever in any situation ever turned around to a webmaster and said, you know what, or actually dealt with it. What they do is a site gets dinged, there is nothing out there, the site owner then eventually has to go and discover that there's a thing such as a Webmaster Tools. So then they find Webmaster Tools, then they see they've got a penalty, then Google says go to Webmaster Forums. So they go to Webmaster Forums, which isn't even run by Google. It's run by, Rob, it's run by volunteers as such. Invariably, they end up getting slagged off there. There is no recourse in that sense for these people. And on the other flip side of the whole thing is, when a small site, a small business says, why am I not ranking on Google? And then they start typing it in. The first thing that pops up is link building. Okay. And so they go, okay, link building, right? So then they Google link building. And then there are paid ads everywhere. And every single one of those paid ads will get you flipping penalized. Okay. But there is nothing from Google saying, whoa, hang on a second, a little asterisk somewhere, it could be between the top 3 promoted ads and the first result saying, if you're going to purchase link building, please look at this, a link through to their guidelines. Because at this point, 99% of all the people do not realize Google has any guidelines. Okay. So they click on these ads, they pay their money, all of a sudden they get they get this penalty down the line. There is a moral obligation now. If Google wants to throw its weight around like this, okay, which is their right because they are the business. But the point is, Google is operating in exactly the same way that they're telling other e-commerce and business sites not to. Provide clear information, but they aren't. They just literally aren't. They will take your money and burn you, and at some point, when you've had to do a lot of education and research and digging around and get slagged off by a few webmasters on the Google forums, they eventually realize that actually, whoa, there's these Google guidelines, and that's how 90% of them find out about this. The point is, people don't know this, and if Google takes such a hard line with this,
wanting to do business on the internet,
sorry.
If you want to do business on the internet, you should do your research on how to do business on the internet. And one of
Rob,
them
it's not.
is,
Rob, that's ridiculous, mate. That is absolutely ridiculous. This is how it works across the world, right? guys, a person sitting there thinks, you know what, I'd really like to, okay, so they've got a business already and they think, right, now's the time for me to get online because I need to obviously either, you know, have a website because everyone else does, even if it's a 4-pager, or someone thinks, right, well, I'm making these handbags and I'm going to have a little website.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody researches Yahoo, Bing, or Google. No, because those are search engines. Okay. What they realized I need a website to appear in search engines. Okay. So, bloody hell. So anyway, so the way it works is the person then says. So the person then says, right, I need a website. So then they go to a web developer, or they hash one together themselves. But the point is, nobody researches ever. No one will read. Well, okay, maybe some people do.
But you call that the wrong of Google, and it's the wrong of the people who want to do business on the internet. The webmaster should know.
Okay. Well,
if you're
then
doing business, you should know how to do your business. Yeah.
No, it's just not the way it works. I understand what you're saying totally, but that is not the way it works. I have never ever heard of anyone going, I want to have a website. I'm going to go and research, or can you tell me about Google, Yahoo, and Bing? No. People think I create a website and it just goes there. It's magic. It flies. It just happens. And then when the trouble begins is when they think, well, why is my site not appearing? And that's when they start doing their own lethal research, and 9 times out of 10, link building pops up, and that's when all the trouble begins. You know, I have a lot of, well, I would say 8 out of 10 clients that always come to me. The first thing I say is, can I have access to your Webmaster Tools? Oh, what's that? You know, and then when you find slightly, you know, not to your liking kind of things, you say, look, this link ain't great, this is not great, please, you must stop this because this is against Google guidelines. They go, what? Huh? And you send them a link and they say, Jesus Christ, I never knew of that. I never knew Google had guide. I just thought it was there. It was a search engine. It put things up. What you put on your website, they help people to find it.
Yeah, but that's why sites like ours exist, like Dumb's SEO Questions, and people realize that they should do their research.
I know. But, you know, there's so many things, you know, and I've mentioned this, you know, I've mentioned this bloody ad that Google runs in the UK. You know, there's a woman who's got a handbag. She types in a little handbag. She goes, oh, I've got this idea. How do I do it? Build a website. She builds a website. All nice. I don't know how many millions it cost him to make the ad. Then she comes up with a little bubble going, how can I sell this? Then it says fashion bloggers. So she contacts a fashion blogger. She sends her the product. You then see the fashion blogger blogging about her product. And then you see all of a sudden the implied thing that this woman's site is just selling loads of handbags now. Well, they've just not only advertised breaking their own guidelines, you know, but nowhere in there have they actually gone, you know, a little thing at the bottom going, please be aware that we have guidelines and we have just broken all our flipping guidelines by giving away a product in return for a link and return for, do you know what I mean? It's just, you know,
the link was no follow, Tim.
Yes, but then they should have put, you know, they should have put in the bottom, please note the link that we provided from the fashion blogger to the blogger for giving her some free product in return for blogging is no followed. But it's not on there. And, you know, this is the thing. I just think that I know there's the whole thing about due diligence, etc., etc. But in reality, that's not the way, and I will go so far as to say 60% of all sites that are online today would even realize Google has guidelines, Google has terms of service. I would go so far as to say 60% of sites online. Maybe less, maybe more. But there is a huge proportion. And I know Google's stance, look, we're a business and blah, 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 and you know, if you want to do business with us, we provide the service. These are the things. And I know they wouldn't have to educate people, but the point is, if you are the biggest search provider around and you realize that 60% of the people that are essentially your bread and butter, because you must remember that without websites, Google is nothing. Okay?
Well, I'm on page 18 for the search term Camara, and I only found one web document that's from Wikipedia that I think is quality. So if Google wants to solve this, they need other web documents to show for this, right? And
yeah,
maybe
Look,
it's page 19. Yeah.
I know, mate. And page 2, I think I found 7 out of 10 were hacked sites.
I think for me Wikipedia was on page 2.
All right, no, for me, I think page 2, I found 7 out of 10 sites that were hacked. You know, look, nobody's saying this is easy for Google, but the frustration comes in is when you have these things, you penalize for certain things, you've pretty much become really boot camp about it, and you have people trying to follow all their guidelines, getting nowhere, and these guys just turn up, slam it, make their money, and go.
What Google can do, and I think that's a good suggestion, is put instead of an ad or a banner like "This is a medicine, so please visit your doctor" or something like that. For information, go see your doctor. Or
Yeah.
By the way, the average price for Camara is about $4 per pill. So, for those who don't want to know,
$4 for a hard-on. Bloody hell.
We want to preserve our general exhibition rating if we can.
Jim, I haven't sworn all day, mate. I had to get something in there. Cheers, Rob.
Yeah, no, I think that they need a new broom in the search quality team. You know, I mean, it's one of the oldest and most stable teams within Google, and I think the results we're seeing now, I think that they've evolved to the point where they've reached the point of their own incompetence, and really, I think you need some younger, fresher ideas in there. The first idea I'd say is Matt extends his 3-month holiday to something like 3 years or 30 years, something like that. Extends it way out into the future, and stop it, Tim. Anyway, that would be my advice. Extend that holiday, mate, because really what's going on here is nothing to be proud of. And Brian White, I suppose you're calling the shots these days. Look, really, maybe think of another job altogether.
This is a weird thing. Search Kamanga on Yahoo, and I've got a good variety of results. Let's see if I'm searching on it properly. Yeah, I am, right. So I've got Wikipedia, the first one. I've got a Safari Hotel. I've got another chalet from TripAdvisor. I've got Kamanga Training. Then some dude called Anthony Kamanga, who's a lawyer on Wikipedia. Oh no, that's a European one. I've got a Facebook page, another Facebook. I've got a Twitter. There is nothing on the first page about this. Hang on, have I spelled it right?
Well, because I'm seeing totally something different. The first result.
Yeah, I'm logged in. Let me log out.
For me, is Performance Insiders. And there's also an Amazon.com. I didn't know they sell those stuff.
Amazon will sell anything as long as you offer a cheaper price.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with Amazon they'll sell anything as long as you sell it at a cheaper price. Oh, that's why I'm spelling the wrong. I'm spelling the wrong bloody thing, man.
Well, have we vented our spleen enough on this one of yours, Tim? I think we've got the other one to cover as well later.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Look, the next article that has been posted in the SEO News community on Google Plus is Edwin Yong, titled "Entity Mentions Are Good, Brand Mentions Are Not. The New Link Building." This is a follow-up on a post by Bill Slawski, I guess. Look, I won't try to read it out. Edwin, would you like to tell us about it?
Where to begin? Last week we had Bill on. He was discussing an article from Forbes and why it was basically wrong. The article is... what's the name of the article? It's basically that the Panda patent, ranking search results is called. So, and basically what Forbes did, they went way too far. They said in the patent there's mention of implied links. And they said, well, implied links are mentions, and therefore that's the new link building strategy. And that's just a bridge too far, because the patent doesn't mention brands. Well, and Bill Slawski explains it here that it's not only brands; it's more like an entity. It can be a location, it can be a place, it can be a person. Anything can be an implied link in that sense. You're muted, Jim.
Oh dear. Okay. All right. All right. That's a fairly good summation, Edwin. Let's go to our next news item. After 20 years of search engine optimization, Jenny Halasz looks out the window to describe what SEO is all about. She mentions 7 subjects that belong in the realm of SEO. I won't list, or I'll just list the headlines: marketing, relevance, strategic, relational, frustrating, collaborative, and holistic. Under those headings, guys, any of you like to comment on Jenny's article?
Well, to be honest, I missed the technical part, but I think you can do without it. Oh, she does that, and she says that on the holistic, yes.
This week, of course, Robin Williams, who's battled depression all his life, hanged himself and ended a beautiful life. He's left a legacy behind that will never be forgotten. He was loved by hundreds of millions of people. But it prompted Jenny, the author of this article, to make what I thought was a really touching post on Google Plus, and she came out and stated she was battling depression herself. I think it was a very healthy thing to say, and no doubt that would help other people battling the illness of depression.
Yes, she says she says she suffered from clinical depression, so that's quite heavy.
Yeah, and anyway, it made her a hero in my eyes. Okay. Moving on from that article, I think we've got about 11 to cover tonight. Here's a popular topic, how to combat negative SEO in autocomplete. Chris Smith suggests 4 things you can do to combat the negative keyword combinations. He lists audio and video ads. You can ask family and friends to help you for searching for positive keyword phrases. We're talking about, of course, Google autocomplete, where it usually says you enter the business name and it might be Acme Tools, and then usually finishes with like Acme Tools Scammer or Acme Tools Sucks or something like that. But anyway, Chris Smith is suggesting that amongst after those other 2 things, you can also crowdsource. I mean, Google autocomplete works completely algorithmically, and it's based by previous searches made by people, and from that, Google gets the data to create the autocompletes. The 4th thing that Chris Smith suggests is it's likely that nudging up terms already associated with a keyword phrase would be easier than trying to introduce something new and alien into the wild. For example, try brand name with city names, careers, or jobs. He's suggesting go for the low-hanging fruit. You can read the full article via the link on the SEO News community. One he didn't mention, and without naming the name, one brilliant tactic that we all heard of in the green room of our Hangouts, must be a while ago now, but I thought it was absolutely genius, and that was the entity concerned paid into others' bank accounts the amount of 10 cents. And so for 10 people to the dollar, they got, because he put the keyword he wanted to display, or he or she put the keyword that they wanted to display as the indicator on bank account. So it would show up on the bank account and would be a deposit of 10 cents into the account. And of course, the first thing that the person would do would be to go to Google or Bing or Yahoo and enter that keyword and search for it. Of course, that affected the autocomplete. So in a very, very competitive niche, and it's absolutely brilliant tactic. I think it still works today even. But of course, there's other ways to do it, like Mechanical Turk as well. Any other comments? No? Okay. So next item on the SEO News community was posted by AJ Cohn. He's a hero of mine. He writes a blog called, or runs a company called Blind 5-Year-Old, and has a blog under that name. And it's headed, Twitter analytics are free. If data is sexy, then Twitter analytics is Tatum Channing. I didn't know who Tatum Channing was, but I looked him up on Google, and he's not the most attractive bloke I've ever seen. I'd also like to point out that AJ Cohn is US-based, and I think it was Edwin Yonk that pointed out to me that this is only available in some countries of the world, plus the US, but it's not available in Australia anyway. Is it available in the Netherlands, Edwin?
No. Actually, I tried to sign in right after he posted this on Google Plus, and I couldn't get in. Maybe I should sign up to the UK or something like that. Not sure if that's possible.
I don't think the UK is one of the countries.
The UK was mentioned. Twitter.
Twitter what?
Twitter analytics.
Yeah.
Did you sign up for it?
No.
I'm hoping that AJ Cohn will be with us for our 100th episode, which is coming up on the 28th of August. We'll run our regular hangout at 10 p.m. Australian time, and it will finish 90 minutes after we start, no matter whether we've covered all the questions or not. I hope you guys won't mind coming back if we don't cover them all in the time allotted. I hope you guys won't mind coming back at a later date through the week. But we'll go straight to a green room for our 100th episode. We've got a great lineup, and we'll be talking about web analytics. And I'm hoping that one of those people will be AJ Cohn. Tim Capper, I think, will be. I'm not sure. He might be speaking from. Well, who knows? He has contacts everywhere.
Yeah, if I can get connection, I'll be coming in from South Africa. I'm going over for 2 weeks, so I'd like to join. Obviously, for the 100th. I think I've probably only missed a handful over the time, but yeah, it's a bloody shame that I've got to get out there and miss the 100th. Well, I'll try and get in.
I'm sure Vlad can sort something out.
I'm sure he can.
Okay. All right. Well, look, if you'd like to read more about that article on Twitter analytics, it's an excellent article on Blind 5-Year-Old. you'll find a link to it on the SEO News community on Google+. Next, we have an article from Dan Petrovic. Google has made a small update to their webmaster guidelines, and I posted it. It was originally posted by Barry Schwartz, and it was essentially the Google Webmaster Guidelines update calls labels low quality guest blog posts. And it was published on Search Engine Land. But look, I think the most significant comment on the whole deal was made by Dan Petrovic. And look, I just love to read it out here. And with your permission, I will. Dan said, the problem here is that it's not about the content quality at all and never will be. It's about the links. You could have the best quality post and still get flagged. The search quality team is incapable of judging quality content as they lack subject expertise. So when they spot certain patterns, much like the algorithms designed to flag them in the first place, they simply mark the pages and links as spam or unnatural. And that's it. I mean, the quality reviewers, that they have a booklet to guide them, but every employee will adapt to meet the wishes of their employer. And so, I mean, ultimately, taken to its extreme, we're going to have a web design that caters to the needs of a 30-something male who gets free food, I guess. I don't know. Anybody? Anybody to comment on this?
Well, I found it surprising that if you're going to look at what they changed, in the guidelines they have a list. The list begins with auto-generated content, door web pages, scrape content, define affiliate sites. The local and the guest blog post, they put it in the line of the scrape content. So I found that surprising. Instead of saying scrape content, it says now content from other sources, for example, scrape content or low quality guest blog posts. So,
but I mean, the entire web is almost, I mean, it's just regurgitated pat, and it's been written to fit inside the Google guidelines. I mean, what was? I don't think the internet.
What surprised me is they pretty much say that scrape content is similar to a low quality guest blog post. So I think those two are quite different.
I don't think the internet is anywhere near as good as it was back in, say, 7 years ago, 2007. I think the internet before the .com burst was really good, but now not so much. I think a lot of people have given up trying to publish on the internet because Google has made it virtually impossible for the small entrepreneur to succeed.
Unless they invest in it, like WebGenius.
Pardon?
Unless Google itself invests in it, like WebGenius, then. WebGenius was had a penalty for the links they created. No.
Look, I'm not familiar.
Oh, okay. Well, skip it.
Okay. All right, moving on. If you want to look at that article, you'll see a link to it in the SEO News community on Google+. Here's another one from Tim Capper, another one. Well, actually, we probably spoke about this before because this one is about Camagra, but Tim, would you like to speak on this?
I think well, we pretty much covered it really. It was just two separate ones. This actually was the first one where I noticed pretty much all these hacked sites. I mean, there was nothing, just nothing that should have been there. And then, of course, I started looking at the other sites. So, yeah, I think we've covered it.
Speaking of hacked sites, as you know, I make hacked sites a hobby and have I try to keep up with the links that people are trying to push towards these hacked sites. And I'll get you a. Oh no! Look, I'm holding you up. I'll find it later and give it to you in the green room. All right. So next we have an article. Dan Petrovic, who we spoke of a moment ago, received an SEO blackmail letter today. And it's listed on Dijon SEO. And he titled it that we've been the target of various negative SEO campaigns, but this morning's email tops it all. In essence, you can read it on the Dijon SEO site and find the link to it in the SEO News community. But in essence, these people wrote to Dan and said, send me $1,500 or I'll send you 20,000 extra links. I'm not sure if they're professionals, and they really should be talking about 2 million links. Tim, would that be the number that you'd be looking for to be concerned?
You're muted, Tim.
Not for negative SEO. I mean, the thing is with negative SEO, it needs to be. You need to establish a pattern for Google. So if they chucked in just 20,000 links in 1 month and left it at that, probably wouldn't do anything. If they chucked in 2 million in 1 month and nothing after, wouldn't really do anything. In that sense, or when that's the theory, Google should pick that up and not count those. That is the theory. If you want to do negative SEO, it should be over a sustained period of time to develop that pattern. So if they did 20,000 per month for 12 months, they've established the pattern, and that's when the problems occur. But the just sheer audacity of these guys was just unbelievable. I mean, they made no ifs or buts about it. It was just a simple extortion letter, which they got like balls the size of an elephant, man. It's amazing.
General exhibition. Yeah, well, actually, the top of their letter began with, "This is an extortion email." I don't know if they're aware or not, but the extortion is a fairly serious criminal offence.
Yeah, in most countries. If so they could quite seriously, if it got tracked down, depending on what country they were in. Yeah, they could go down.
They're using advertising an email address. It would be fairly simple for them to be tracked, particularly if they use it. Used that email for other purposes. Anyway, you can read all about it on the SEO News community on Google+. Here's another one.
Just a quick, interesting, random one. You know, I've just been searching Camagra on Yahoo. I've got to page 2 now. And there are no hacked sites appearing in Yahoo like they are in Google. I mean, they're all crap and spammy because they're all Camagra, but they are all individual Camagra-based sites. They aren't like appearing in Google, all the hacked and infected sites. Well, I haven't found one yet. So, I mean, they're all you know, sites that are selling Camagra, but they aren't all the spam things that like Google lets in, or Google just can't pick up. That's pretty amazing, actually.
Actually, it's interesting because Google knows that these sites are hacked. I'll just see if I can find you one that has been hacked, and we'll put the link in the chat. What the? Sorry. Sorry to hold you up, guys. Oh, look, I'm wasting your time. I'll be better prepared next time. I'll try and cover it before this broadcast finishes, or in the green room later. But what I was going to demonstrate, or going to say, was that, look, this is a site that's been farmer hacked, and Google knows that it's been hacked because they actually declare it in the search results. They say this site may be hacked. So Google knows that it's been hacked. They know because people have sent anchor text and links to the site, and it's a known pattern and known behaviour, and so that they can reasonably judge that the site is hacked. So if they can do it for the search results, why can't the search quality team use that to yank all of the hacked sites from the search results? It seems fairly simple, and like the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. Would you say?
Yeah, I don't know how other search engines can do it, and Google just has such difficulty in sorting it out.
I'd say that Bing probably has a, well, I mean, the Google index has been getting shallower and shallower since about 2010. You know, maybe just Google doesn't have the other sites to bring up in their place, and this is, you know, the best of what they've got. And that's a question we'll have to put to Dwayne Forrester, Tim.
You know, I'm looking at Bing. Bing has by far returned the best search results for Camagra. Yes, there are all the sites there that are selling it, but I'm on page 3 now, and there is not a single hacked site. I'm up to page 4, not a single hacked site. They even pull in, which Google and Yahoo never managed to do, is they've actually pulled in some related Wikipedia terms around, you know, how this thing an ESAN article did get in. Okay, fair dues, but they've pulled in stuff on from men's blogs, from a medical site telling about the dangers of this fake version. From an actual medical site, which which Google never did. Yahoo did pull it in. And this is the thing, Google has become so blinded, in a sense, by kind of, search quality and link building that, in this case, they've just completely produced the worst results.
Actually, Bing, this is what I like. They have, for me, a knowledge panel. Google didn't give me that, and that, especially for this query, it's you want to know that, right? You want to know that's a drug, that the brand name is can be Viagra, and what it may treat. It's quite nice. For me, the results on the first page are the same as on Yahoo. I set Yahoo to the US, and I also set Bing to the US. Did you do that too, Tim? Or?
No. I just searched from UK.
Oh, okay. That's impressive, that knowledge panel. That's nice. They're pulling it from, I think that's a government site, the National Library of Medicine. Yeah, that's good information. Yes, I like that.
Yeah, so I don't understand why Google can't sort this out. It's just ridiculous. Yeah. Right, guys, it's been fun. I've got to go.
Okay, mate, no problem. Harking back to a discussion that you and Rob were having earlier about Google, Doc Sheldon made a comment here, Tim, and he said, I think that Rob Mars has a point. Who would decide to buy a car for the first time and decide to drive on the highways without trying to find out if they need a driver's license or what the traffic signals mean? Well, Doc, I have to say, me. I didn't know anything. I didn't really know anything about Google. I just built my site, and that's right. That would mean Google wasn't around when I started.
This is the thing, a lot of people do it the other way around, Doc, and I know I can see exactly what you're saying. I can see exactly what Rob was saying. Because we're in this, but I've never had a client come to me and say, I want to build a site and I want to understand Google, Yahoo, and Bing. What their terms of service are, etc., etc. They've always just gone to a web developer and then they come to us afterwards to deal with the, results. But just on a flip side, talking about a driver's license, Doc. I was when I finished school, I had to go and do national service. I did obviously my basic training, and then I ended up in Angola in a war zone. And when on the one day I said to my sergeant mate, RSM, I said, I need, I was supposed to have done my driver's test. He told me to get into this, I suppose you'd call them a pickup, and he told me to drive down this dirt road to a tree and drive back. and he signed me off, and I had a military driver's license from then on, which I transferred into a civilian license. So yes, Doc, I've never learned how to understand or learned what an indicator is. I know what an accelerator is, mate. So in other words, shit, you know what? This is live. I shouldn't be saying that. I'm gonna have people coming after me for my driver's license back. Right, that's it. I'm off. I'm out of here. I never said that.
Okay.
That was all in humour.
No problem, Tim. Regards to Vlad.
Yeah, will do. If I can, I'll obviously jump in next week.
Okay, mate.
Cheers, guys.
Yeah. All right. Next, the next item, I can talk on this one a little bit. This was an article that I posted. It's titled that the internet broke yesterday, and it was all because of the number 512. Major sites were down around the world, but especially in Australia. They were down for some, but they were visible via other networks to a certain extent. And the culprit was border gateway protocol routers and the huge routing tables that they have to load these days. We've approached the point of redundant. Well, we've outlived the usefulness of the routers that we use on the internet, and these routers aren't an easy thing to replace. They cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Most of them are Cisco's, and they have a proprietary operating system. It's a cryptic operating system. Not many people. Actually, Archie Watt knows a little about the Cisco's operating system. I think he's studying to be a CCNA. But anyway, yesterday the tables became full to capacity, and it became an issue of all of these routers had to have more memory added to them, so that they could take the size of the table required, for the BGP routing. But in the meantime, of course, once they added this memory, which they did at 4 a.m. This morning Australian time, about or 21 hours ago, many sites were down for an extended period. I was talking to Chris Brooks, who's CEO of the Click Galore network. That's an affiliate network which does hundreds of millions of transactions or packets changing every day, and they're a worldwide affiliate network. And they were actually mostly off the air. They were online or visible to some networks because the routes were out there, but across the Telstra network, which is the biggest in Australia, they were simply invisible for 37 hours once it was discovered, and it wasn't actually rectified until 4 a.m. this morning. But it just shows what a tenuous thing we live in. The internet isn't owned by anybody. It's not controlled by any one body, and we use these items to the point of their breaking point, and that's where they're at the moment. Now, all around the world, people are moving to upgrade the memory in their routers so that they can hold these tables. That's the bit that I know. Did you guys experience anything overseas?
Y2K like scare?
The website. That's weird. No, I didn't notice. Sorry?
It wasn't that nude cosplay site playing, was it?
It was the news.com.au that started playing. Lovely woman, by the way. At lunch break. I need to watch that more. I didn't notice anything, Rob.
Okay. All right. And I think our last, is it our last, or do we still have more? No, it's our last item. This was the article by Jenny Halasz that we spoke of earlier. I didn't realise this was on our run list. Edwin.
I shared it there. I shared her article, and I thought, well, it would be nice to share her public announcement here too. But you did forget one. The article from Barry Schwartz that Penguin isn't updating. Refreshing Penguin is not so simple. It seems like Google Penguin has been on some sort of vacation. Since it has now been over 10 months since the last refresh. And actually I watched the Google Webmaster Central Office hours. I watched it live, and John was asked about Penguin. And, well, it's basically his reply.
His reply was essentially that they've been working on it for 10 months, and it's not like a simple refresh. It's an entire cycle. Am I describing this very well? Probably not. But they're not obviously not happy with what they have so far, which is, of course, why they haven't run it.
Yeah, I don't think he said it, but how I viewed it was that he was saying we have problems iterating over the current Penguin status, and at this moment we cannot do a complete data refresh. We cannot make tweets, and it pretty much need a complete rerun. So I think they are in trouble with the Penguin. And the team behind Penguin, which is the where Matt Katz is the head of. Is that the quality team or the spend team or?
Search quality.
Oh, search quality. Yeah. I think they are under pressure to at least release something, because people are getting upset now. It's not only in the SEO world that it's noticed. Even CNBC posted an article saying that Google should update the Penguin release, or at least a data refresh or something. So
I guess they're counting on the fact that it's unlikely to go mainstream, but it wouldn't be a good look for Google if it became known by the mainstream, because it's very, very easy to see that the whole deal is amoral. It's just lacking in morality. The whole plan is flawed. And the hubris that they think that they can presume to sit in judgment, it's just stupidity.
No
wonder Matt Katz went on holidays.
And by John saying this, that they are having troubles with Penguin, they basically acknowledge that that their design for Penguin wasn't that well thought out. So.
Yeah. Well, look, I think their problems stem from their adoption of upper limit thresholds, because now let me ask you to forget that I actually even said that, because I really I can't tie the two together. I must be delirious. All right. Right. If there's nothing else that you guys want to raise, I think we can call this another good job. Well done. Thank you, guys. I appreciate your efforts very much, and I especially appreciate those of you watching us right now. It's your interest that makes what we do worthwhile, and we thank you for that. We'll be back at the same time next week to do it again, and I put a link in the SEO Questions community on Google+. I placed a link where you can come and join us if you like. The actual broadcast will stop now, but you're more than welcome to join us for a chat afterwards. Thank you very much.